I'm just a typical cop.
Typical cop! If that were true, then all you'd hear is gunfire all day long, and the streets would be lined with funeral processions.
Don't try to cheer me up.
Would you ever trust a man with a tiny gun, Ian?
Yes.
Good for you. How are you? You scum-sucking something or other?
You've not been paying attention this week.
Yeah. Not to the
You
insult.
called me a Nazi or something. I mean, you got all these things in the episode.
Yeah, that's about these days calling someone a Nazi. Not appropriate with your Germanic roots.
Well, everybody loves a demagogue.
Mm.
Or maybe 47% of listeners. Who knows? Anyway.
Things good?
I'm good, Gerry. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. What have you been doing?
Been working hard and getting ready for this time of year, this festive and glorious season of whenever people are listening.
Yeah. Why are you wearing... I mean, we're still, a week or two away from that particular night. Why have you got your costume on already?
This is just what I wear when I'm at home.
Yeah, but not the mask, surely.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're one to talk.
Certainly.
Did you enjoy this week's episode?
I did. I thought there was a great insight into Sledge's psyche. I enjoyed watching this. I thought Rashi, as always, was perfection, and it was an interesting take on his character.
It was a very different type of performance from him.
Yeah, we say very different. It was a little bit similar to the Miss of the Spider Woman when he was poisoned. It's got
Yeah, but no, it wasn't quite the same as that though, was it?
No, it wasn't the same, I agree. But you were seeing a vulnerability.
Yeah.
A
rugged and raggedness.
Yeah. But yeah, it was good to watch.
I enjoyed it.
Did you enjoy it enough to prepare a summary?
No.
Okay.
Oh no, actually I did.
Crack on.
In Haven't Gun, Will Travel, a gang of vicious criminals plot to neutralise Hammer by stealing his precious magnum and wrecking his self-confidence. The plan works. But when one of the gang makes a critical error, Sledge and Dory are quickly on their tail. A final showdown follows, and Hammer must consider what his weapon means to him and what he will sacrifice for it.
Thank you, Ian. Coffee shop, that's where we begin this week. We've seen this a few times. I like a coffee shop beginning.
Yeah, it'd be good if Sledge was eating chili or something.
Yeah, crackers, saltine crackers.
Or maybe a boiled egg.
Tapped on a wheel.
Or a weapon,
crowbar,
a murder
yeah.
weapon.
That was on the other week there. I watched it.
Was it?
Yeah. Enjoyable.
It's always good to see Spock killing people.
That's what he's there for.
That's it. We've just crossed about 3 different things.
Anyway,
People will be very confused.
coffee shop. Sledge is there with Dory, and he tells her that last night he broke up a protest against police brutality.
With clubs and tear gas, yes.
He then caresses Gunny, and Dory points out that cops don't carry guns in London, and it's a very safe place to live.
Yeah, if you're a crook with a gun.
That's what Hammer responds with.
That's the second sort of reference to England in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I don't think they're representing London or any major city particularly accurately with it being that safe. I mean, I don't think it's any less safe than anywhere else.
You don't get shot that readily.
You know, same in Glasgow. You'll get stabbed all the time.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah, but
every time I go out, I get stabbed. It's really frustrating sometimes.
I would prefer to be shot
than stabbed.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, after the 12th or 13th time.
Yeah, just to relieve the boredom.
Yeah, I just stay in sometimes and go a week without getting stabbed.
We are, of course, joking.
Yeah, it's only every other time.
Once a month.
Coming from Hamilton, you must be quite happy only to get stabbed once a day.
I've not been there. I've got to say I've not been there for a while, but I'm currently living there. Yeah, I'm a bit on edge. However, back to this episode. Before Sledge gets a chance to enjoy his coffee, he sees an armoured car being robbed across the street, and he leaves with his coffee mug. Now, I know for a fact you won't get that visual reference.
Is it a Dirty Harry one?
Yeah.
There you go. I did get it.
Fair enough.
The waitress is really upset,
Yes.
but Hammer reassures her.
She'll get her coffee mug back.
That's it.
He goes out, he's very relaxed, very chilled out about the whole thing.
Despite Dory being quite concerned for his safety and well-being, you'd think she's been around him often enough to know what was going to happen.
He pulls out his amigo with one hand, he's drinking coffee with the other, and he shoots the bad guys to a stop.
He does. He shoots the money out their hands and the tyres out of their car, and the theft is averted.
And Dory exclaims that this is all before 9 a.m. and they've had an armed robbery, 3 prisoners have been taken, and there's been a car crash.
What does Sledge say?
Yeah, it's always slow after Christmas. We head straight to the bad guys' factory, a smelting factory, I think it is.
How did you refer to this location in your notes?
Bad guys' factory.
Mine's Bad Guy HQ.
Fair enough. The boss of the bad guys is
Bad Guy Leader. That's
bad
what I
guy
call it.
leader. Okay, is complaining to his minions, his henchmen, about Sledge's interference, and that they have to do something about it before the super caper.
Yes. They want the Hammer issue dealt with. They want him neutralised.
Yeah, he seems to have a solution after receiving a call.
Yes. He's on the call, and we only hear one end of the conversation, but I think he's going to agree to pay $80,000 despite the protestations of henchman number 1.
Yeah, he wants it done for 75.
Yeah, he doesn't negotiate though, he just agrees, and he feels that the plan that's been put in place will be sufficient to end the Hammer issue.
Over in Trunk's office, the police psychiatrist, the doctor, is discussing Sledge's violence and his behaviour with Trunk.
Yeah, it's not the best cut if you don't want him to be obviously a bad guy.
And he tells him that Hammer is a direct descendant from
Attila the Hun.
Attila the Hun. For some reason I've got Genghis Khan here.
He said Attila the Hun.
Yeah, much of a muchness.
Is it?
Don't know.
I don't know about their politics, I don't want to get into that one. We'll get folk
I'm
complaining.
sure they're both quite right wing. I don't think they're very liberal in their outlook.
No, I believe not.
Trunk assures the doctor that Sledge will do as he is told and he will talk to him.
That's true.
We cut quickly, however, to Sledge being told this by Trunk.
In the same room.
Yeah.
He says to him, haven't you ever been at Hanalei? And Sledge responds, not by anyone who lived. And there's a great story about a floating casino.
Yeah. The bottom line is Sledge doesn't agree that he has a problem with violence.
But Trunk insists that he goes to see the shrink.
Yeah, he pulls rank. So, we are over at the doctor's office, and we see Sledge lying on a couch, but he is less than comfortable.
You don't like psychiatrists, do you, Hammer?
The last guy to point a finger at me ended up limping through the yellow pages.
Hammer, we must start out by trusting one another.
Trust you? You sound like a Nazi.
Well, thank you very much, but enough about me. Why don't you just make yourself comfortable? Perhaps you want to take off your gun.
I'd never take off my gun.
Surely you must take it off sometime. I mean, you wouldn't sleep with your gun.
Says who?
Ah, very interesting. Look, Hammer, it would be quite natural for a detective to become fond of his weapon. After all, you've been through some dark times together, right? Tell me, when did you first fire your gun?
How can I remember something like that? It was so long ago.
Why?
Thursday, September 8th at 1:30 a.m. in a rooming house on West 49th Street.
They carry on with an ink blot test.
They do, and all Hammer can see is guns and violence and pussy willows.
Until the last one, when he sees a duck handcuffing a naked lady. and what does the shrink say?
I can't remember.
He says, that's funny, I never noticed the duck.
Sledge's apartment. It's night time, and we see him wake from his sleep.
He's left the telly on.
He has, and as it was back in the day, a national anthem is often played last thing as the last broadcast.
Okay.
So Sledge gets up, and we know he is very patriotic.
He is.
What does he do?
He stands in front of the TV and salutes, although he looks like he might not be awake.
No, I think it's just a natural instinct. As he's doing this, we see a burglar come in the window, and what does he do?
He swipes the Magnum.
Oh, he steals his amigo.
Oh, he does.
That's not good.
Hammer goes back to bed without noticing, though.
He does. This is a little bit inconsistent. He wakes up the next morning and he is distressed to discover the missing gun. But he thinks he may have left it at the precinct, and that's very unlikely.
Well, he probably doesn't actually think that. He just can't think
Hoping.
where it would be. He's just hoping that he's made a mistake.
Yeah.
But it's neither in the house nor, as we come to learn, in the precinct.
No.
But before he can get there,
He has some trouble with his car.
I quite like the way he solved this trouble.
Explain.
There's 2 taxis boxing him in, and I assumed he was just going to get in the taxi and get taken to the precinct. But a car drives by, he tells the first taxi, shows his badge, police emergency, follow that car. He tells the second taxi the same thing to follow the first taxi. So the 3 of them are going to be off to wherever that first car's going.
It's showing you how smart Sledge can be.
Yeah, it's definitely smart. And then he drives into all the cars near him to barge his way out of space.
The locker room. We don't often see the locker room, but I like it when we're down there.
Sure.
Trunk is quite unsympathetic towards the dishevelled Sledge and his plight. And he doesn't see him as a typical cop. This is the clip from the top of the podcast.
Yeah.
He tells Hammer that he is well rid of this troublesome gun, and he orders him to draw a police issue weapon.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I like Trunk's attitude here.
It's not very sympathetic, is it?
It's not, and it's not the gun. Guns don't kill people.
Sledge
Sledgehammers
does,
do.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think a change of gun is going to change Sledge's attitude.
Yeah.
It does, but perhaps not for the better. We head back over to the factory.
Yeah, they've got a plan in place for their super caper, and they're discussing the fact that Hammer has been neutralised.
And then we have the big reveal.
Yes, the psychologist comes in and he's got the gun. Why they don't just melt it down at this point, I don't know. Hubris?
Yes, but also I think they want to punish Hammer a little bit more by using the gun, and we discover later on using the gun in some robberies.
Bringing trouble on themselves. If they just burnt it here, that's it. They would never find it again.
Back to the precinct.
I enjoyed this bit.
I used this word last week. There is a melancholic score as Mayjoy and the other cops laugh at Sledge's distress and
Mayjoy's a bit of a...
beep.
Yeah, he's not a nice guy. He doesn't like Sledge and he doesn't treat him well.
I can't say what I've got written down here.
But it's not even just now, it's in a few episodes. Like when he was dying,
Yeah,
Mayjoy was a bit of a...
The bet, yeah, the money he owed him. Yeah, quite a
He's not a nice character.
despicable. Yeah, so I mean, the guy's obviously, you can see he's emotionally distraught.
Yeah, you might think it's ridiculous, but
Yeah,
he's meant to be your colleague.
And he's putting up posters of the missing gun.
I like the one he showed Dory. It made me sad.
Yeah, what was it?
He had a picture of his own face looking sad and the big headline, "Please come home." He wanted it to have a personal touch.
And Trunk, just like Mayjoy, is not interested. He tells him to get over to the firing range.
He does, he's got an appointment there. But you can't get a new 44 because there's a 30-day wait period.
Yeah, so the desk sergeant suggests a 22.
It's
which
half
is-
the time.
He's unsympathetic as well towards Sledge. He teases him with this standard gun before what?
He basically gives him what looks like a sort of pea shooter of some kind.
Yeah, that might be my favourite line. Sledge thinks that this gun might be able to stop a hamster at 40 paces.
Yeah. He tries it on the firing range and the bullets don't reach the target.
So we're out on the street and Sledge is moaning to Dory about the state of things, the situation that he's in. He says that he would contemplate shooting himself, but his current weapon would not be able to part his hair.
There's a robbery going on as they walk by and Hammer shoves Dory to the side and can't get the gun out of his holster.
No, his depression is further compounded when the robber escapes as Sledge fumbles and eventually drops this tiny little gun.
Yeah.
And Dory, we cut to her and she's looking very concerned at her friend and colleague's well-being.
Decline.
And at the end of this scene, another nice bit, he picks up this gun eventually, and rather than try and put it back in the holster, he just shoves it in his pocket.
Yeah. The next scene, my note just says, I assume this entire scene will be a clip.
Is that what you assume?
It is.
You look like you really got it bad, buddy. You must have really loved her.
We were close, all right. Been through a lot together.
Yeah, it's tough when you lose them.
I wish I could hold her again. Feel her close to my heart. see the smoke rising
Smoke?
when we got into heavy action.
Well, where'd she come from?
Got it from my father.
From your father.
Yeah. He loved her before I ever saw her. That's why it was so great when he gave her to me.
I see.
No one else ever had her. Just my father and me.
Well, you have your memories.
Great. What good are memories when I'm in an alley at midnight?
True.
I'd give anything to know where she is right now. I want to know whose hand is gripping her, whose palm is caressing her.
Hey, that kind of talk's gonna drive you crazy.
I took good care of her, and she performed beautifully. I loved every curve.
Young
I loved her.
man, you're obscene.
That lady's very unhappy.
She is.
I think she's misunderstood what Sledge was trying to say there.
I think so. I loved that.
It was a good scene.
Yeah, it was funny.
The barman is intrigued and titillated, I think, by this description.
Yeah, we can talk about him a little bit later. He certainly is overly eager to find out more about
The
Sledge's
lost love, yeah.
Back to the precinct.
Yeah, Dory expresses her affection for Hammer's softer, more vulnerable side, and she says that beneath his hard exterior lies a very decent man.
Mm-hmm.
And Hammer says, that's a rotten thing to say.
Yeah, it was a good comeback. But I enjoyed this little dynamic here. I mean, Sledge he hasn't been sleeping, he's feeling emasculated, and Dory notices it.
Yeah,
She's aware of it.
this scene is one of, I think, David Rash's best moments of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
I especially enjoyed the bit when he's indecisive.
Well, I think I've got that down as perhaps my favourite line. Yeah, he says that he feels he's not a man anymore, and maybe he is indecisive, or maybe he's not. He's not sure.
Yes.
It's very, very smart.
Yes. It's like the old joke, I used to be indecisive, but now I'm not so sure.
Mm-hmm. Dory has some bad news. She tells Hammer to promise he won't get angry, and he says he won't. You know, anger is a childish emotion, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not going to partake of that.
Dory explains firstly that his gun was used in a robbery.
He's not happy about that.
No, and that a pedestrian was shot.
He's even more unhappy.
Yeah, a couple of guards they were shot as well.
He's getting a little bit annoyed.
Yeah, and also a cop was shot.
Oh, he's furious.
Yeah,
But he gets a lid on it. He's okay.
Yeah, he stands up and he's sort of walking around and he's pacing. His anger and his frustration is that boiling point, and eventually it's tripped when Dory adds what?
It's also been used to pistol whip an old lady. It's like she almost just put that one in. It wasn't true. She just put it in to see what he did.
Yeah. Because of his reaction, Trunk insists that Hammer has another talk with the shrink. So we head over to the doctor's office. Yeah. And he's letting out his anguish here, isn't he, to the doc? He's bearing his soul.
Yeah, he mentions that without his gun, he's just a cop.
Yeah, but with it,
he's a dangerous cop. Yeah.
And he says that the gun was his Dr. Watson.
Sidekick, essentially.
Yeah. He continues to reveal his pain.
I know it sounds crazy, but I love that gun.
This does not sound crazy at all. Kurt von Temsky himself explains that policemen often develop a sexual affinity for their weapons. Von Temsky says that the weapon becomes an extension of your manhood.
Who's von Temsky?
The kid that brings my coffee.
I love that gun. I love that gun. I love the gun. I love it.
That's it. You loved it excessively, Hammer. Have you ever thought of replacing it with a woman?
No woman could ever replace my Magnum. I really loved it. I even slept with it.
Ah, yes. That is a deep attachment. To sleep with your gun on the pillow beside you. But you know that can be explained.
Hammer immediately perks up at that. He knows what he's just heard.
Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced with that. So if I had to say to you, I sleep with a gun or I don't know, What would I have? My phone.
Uh-huh. I would assume it's on the table next to your bed.
A gun, would you as well? You sleep with it? That's not sleeping with it. If I say, if we're talking about how much you love something, you're saying, listen, I love it so much that I sleep with it.
Yeah, but he also said in a previous one he never takes his holster off, so he might assume that it was in its holster on his...
Yeah, okay. We're back at the bar, and he is explaining this theory, or what he knows, to Dory. He says no one else knows that he sleeps with the gun on the pillow. The only person who would know it would be the person who took it, or the person who he then gave it to. There could be several people that would know that.
Yeah, if you told them about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Dory is not sceptical, she's going to go along with this.
Yeah, she works out that by emasculating Sledge, it would allow the bad guys to steal the silver looked in this super caper.
Yes, so they're going to go and follow the shrink, but...
Just as they leave, the barman...
Well, Sledge has left and Dory's at the door and he calls Dory back.
Okay, you thought this was quite inappropriate?
I think the word quite's not required. It was the most inappropriate thing I've ever seen on television.
What happened? Is it more appropriate than the time that Columbo sat down beside two young girls about 8 years old, eating suggestively a hot dog and telling them they were both very pretty?
Yes.
Okay.
It's less appropriate than when Columbo showed up at a funeral and started harassing people.
Which one?
Any of the times that happened. The barman takes the end of what Hammer had to say about the gun smoking when they got into heavy action and its curves.
Yeah.
And he assumes that Hammer was talking about Dory, and he says, I hear you smoke
Yeah.
when you get going, and I can see why someone would miss those curves.
Yeah.
I don't understand what he's trying to achieve here.
Yeah.
Is he maybe thinking, oh, if she hears me say this, oh,
Yeah, she's mine.
yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just quite a creepy guy.
Yeah.
Over at the factory, and outside in the car, they see, this is Dory and Hammer, the doctor entering, and they surmise that the silver is to be melted down before being shipped out somewhere.
I like the bars of silver. I've never seen that before. You obviously see bars of gold. I'm not sure they keep silver in bars like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I like the fact that they were just basically silver coloured gold
Metal,
bars. Yeah.
However, Sledge is reluctant to enter without his magnum, and Dory has to pull him together.
Yeah.
Inside, the boss details the next stage of the plan to the psychiatrist.
So, how did the hijacking go?
Without Hammer there, it was a breeze. A day without Hammer is like a day without darkness. Now, we're going to melt all this down. We're going to pour it into molds, and then we're going to ship it out as 100,000 statues of Hugh Hefner.
Who would buy so many statues?
Hugh Hefner. And just to make sure that we're not bothered by Hammer anymore, what's the first hunk of silver that we melt? Inspector Hammer's precious magnum.
Hold it, freeze! Anybody moves in, they're dead.
You better ask your boyfriend about that, miss. Because if you don't drop your gun, I'm going to toss his magnum into the flames.
I actually could believe that Hugh Hefner would buy statues of himself.
Of course. He's got many of them.
I'm
He gives
sure
them out
he
at Christmas. No, Hammer hands out those little found out little statues. Well, Hugh sends out
statues of Hugh. Yeah. Him and that guy, Oscar
Pistorius. He doesn't. That's
The
not
one
what he
who
gives
has
you.
the-
That's not the present he gives you.
No, the one
He gives you something silver.
the one from the movie awards.
Oh, right, okay.
The gun is actually tossed into the furnace after what we heard.
Yeah, but Hammer is able to retrieve it, and after a few moments is in fact able to hold it.
Yes, it cools down enough. A bit of slapstick when he tries to pick up this burning hot gun, having retrieved it from the fire. But his hand appears okay, the gun appears okay, and he is back.
He is immediately transformed into our hero, and he takes control by disarming the bad guys. I think he shoots the guns as he often
shoots
does.
the guns out of everybody's hand, and the shrink, even trying to leave through an exit, can't get a door open, so he's trapped as well.
He then tells his compadre that he loves her. He whispers that to her.
He does. It's a bit weird.
Mm-hmm. And Dory welcomes back the old Sledge. I think she's a bit disappointed that he's back. I think she quite liked the emotional, fragile Hammer.
Yeah, I mean, he has a few lines. Look out, Dodo, this is man's work. And I liked, sorry, dog, your hour's up.
Yeah.
That was a good one. But yeah, no, Dory's, I think she's a bit sad that the old Hammer's back.
Mm-hmm. We head back to the bar for the epilogue this week. And I like this little scene.
Barman still being super creepy.
Well, before that, Sledge admits that deep down he is unsure of himself, even with all the explosions, shootings and violence. So he's admitting here that he's not as confident as he would like people to think, or he would like himself to be.
Yeah, well, Dory's assuming he means that they shouldn't be necessary, but what he means is they're not working for him. They don't make him feel the way that he acts like they make him feel.
As they go to leave the bar, what happens?
Well, the barman this time talks to Sledge and talks about how Dory looks like she was worth getting upset about.
Yeah, he said he looks a lot better with her back on the scene.
Yes, and obviously Sledge assumes he means the gun because that's what he was talking about.
He pulls it out.
Yes, he says, and now I'm going to take her out and shoot her.
He's going to take her out the back and shoot her.
The barman looks horrified as the episode ends.
There we have it. I must admit, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought there was some fantastic lines in there, some brilliant humour.
Yeah, I mean, when he got the gun back, it was a little bit old hammer, but the rest of the episode was really good. And again, that step forward that we've talked about, not like last week's episode, which I didn't like the progression of the character as much, but this week's was good.
Okay. Some production and trivia.
Okay.
January 17th, 1987 was the original air date. It was directed by David Wechter, we've seen him before, and it was written by Gerald Gardner. This is his first of 2 Sledgehammer episodes, and in fact Sledgehammer was his last work as a writer, certainly for TV or movie.
Maybe he went into the theatre.
Perhaps. Although I'm not sure, because he's been a reasonable age. I mean, he was born in 1929, so in his late 50s at this point. He has written for What's Happening at Disneyland.
What, the theme park?
Mm-hmm.
He wrote the script for the Haunted House.
Happy Days, the Jack Benny birthday special.
Really?
The Bill Cosby Show. 22 episodes of The Monkees. Did you ever watch The Monkees?
I never watched it, but that was kind of like an original sort of reality type show, wasn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I remember as a kid in the summer holidays watching it. I liked the theme tune. He wrote 11 episodes of Get Smart, a episode of Gilligan's Island, and an episode of The Smothers Brothers Show.
The who?
Don't know. Bill Dana played the Doctor. He was born in 1924. He started life as a comedian, and he had his own show, The Bill Dana Show. He was also in The Golden Girls, Zorro and Son, and The Steve Allen Show.
It was a bit of a cliched performance, but we'll maybe blame the writers or the director for that rather than the actor.
Alan Miller played Fredericks. I've seen him before many times. He's a Murder, She Wrote stalwart. Born in 1929. He has been in, as I say, Murder, She Wrote, L.A. Law, Santa Barbara, Matlock, Dallas, Quincy, Cruising, good Al Pacino movie, The Rockford Files, Kojak, lots and lots of
Was
things.
he the boss of the bad guys?
Yes.
Okay.
And he was also in Star Trek 3. Which one is that?
That's The Search for Spock.
Yeah.
It's not a great one.
Okay. Interestingly, he was, or is, an acting coach at the famous Actors Studio. And some of his students include Barbara Streisand, Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep.
Okay, is that the one that they do the behind the Actors Studio interviews?
Inside the Actors,
Inside
with
the Actors Studio.
the biggest brown noser of all time. What's his name again? Can't remember.
Can't
But
remember off the top of my head.
I used to watch that, and God, he likes a brown nosing, does he?
Yeah, I think the people who go on that show know what they're in line
yeah,
for.
Quite cringy. Peter Falk was on it, I believe, but I've not managed to track it down.
Well, if anyone's got the tape of that, let us know.
Jeff Giuseppe played the bartender, the creep. He was born in 1947, still going strong, doing an awful lot of TV. Recently, he has been in True Detective, Glee, Desperate Housewives, Third Rock from the Sun, Weird Science TV series, Alien Nation, Newhart, The A-Team, and Splash. He is the son of actor John Giuseppe, who was, I believe, quite big in a lot of sort of big movies in the 50s and the 60s, especially westerns.
Okay.
Pat Crawford Brown played the unhappy woman in the bar, the elderly lady.
What did you say her name was?
Pat Crawford Brown.
Oh, I thought you said Pat Crawford the Brown. I was like, what?
Nope. Born in 1929. She only started acting after retiring as a teacher in 1985. So 2 years before this.
Okay.
But she still managed to rack up many appearances in shows such as LA Law, Knots Landing, Quantum Leap, Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, The Wonder Years, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Coach, NYPD Blue, Buffy, Gilmore Girls, Desperate Housewives, Days of Our Lives, and General Hospital.
That's a good list.
The title of this week's episode, Haven't Gun Will Travel, is a reference to Have Gun Will Travel, which was a TV show that ran for 225 episodes from 1957 to 63 and starred Richard Boone.
Was that a Western show?
Yeah.
Got that impression.
Favourite line, Ian, this week?
Oh, let me just have a quick think back through that. I mean, my favourite part of it was the poster, the Please Come Home poster. That doesn't really count as a line, does it?
No.
Possibly That's Funny, I Never Noticed the Duck.
Okay. Mine's would have to be either the hamster at 40 paces, but I think I'll go for he feels that he's not a man anymore and is maybe indecisive.
Maybe not.
Maybe not, yeah. Next week, the colour of hammer.
Okay.
Any idea?
Green.
Before we go, what do you want to say?
Well, just the usual desperate begging plea for you to rate and review us on iTunes because it helps others find the show, which is great for us, and it's hopefully good for Sledgehammer in the long run as well. More folk are talking about it. We're also on social media. We are chatty and friendly on Twitter and on Facebook at Sledgecast on either of those. And you can come and chat with us on a week-to-week basis at sledgehammerpodcast.com, where we can jump in the comments of any of the episodes and chat about what's been going on in the show.
Okay, that's us. Until next week.
Cheerio.
Bye-bye.